Hello everyone. So I'm going to be standing here in Balthasar Hill Village, listening to some nice tunes, courtesy of NCSoft, I guess. And I'm going to explain and give as comprehensive a guide as I can for the new 12-man instance in 3.5, otherwise known as the Dragon Lord's Refuge. I just have the map open here so we can take a quick look as to where it is. It's in the middle room of the eye, so it's not too hard to get to. I'm going to mention one really important point. Magic resist is really important, especially as a Templar, Cleric, Chanter, or random person whispering me. A lot of the stuff that will kill you in this instance comes in the form of nukes, so you should stack magic resist as these three classes. In DPS classes, we actually have, let's look at our alliance real quick. From this frozen screen, you have 2 Templars, Glad, 2 Clerics, and Chanters in one team. And then the other team we have the DPS, the 2 Sins, 2 Sorks, another Cleric, and another Chanter. All the Clerics and Chanters and Templars are stacked magic resist, so that's an important point. Another thing I'd like to say is that make sure you stock up on consumables. I only have 44 fine recovery serums, but that was enough for me. I would say to be safe, carry 100 of the serums and potions of the mana and HP ones. I'd recommend the purple pots though, because there's most likely you'll be taking damage a lot of the time, so anything to help out the healers is really recommended. You'll also want fine recovery crystals or AP mana pots and life pots. Pick whatever really suits you, but extra healing or mana take back is really important in this instance, and I cannot stress that enough either. One final thing I'm going to mention is that you should definitely have all 4 elemental scrolls. You won't need that many, you can carry like 20 of them and be fine. But elemental damage, or elemental defense, sorry, is really important as well. Now I'm going to go through the gear, or I'm going to go through my stats, which aren't that important really. Cast speed's a little lower because I have the cast speed mace and gloves, but we're going to stop here at magic resist. Now, as you can see, I have 2,368. This is a pretty nice number. As for the other classes, DPS classes, physical ones stack attack, and sorcerers will be stacking magic boost. Our gladiator is also dual wield because dual wield gladiator does a lot of DPS. Okay, so this is going to be a quick screen freeze for the map I drew. The instance itself is not that big, so that's nice, you don't have to get lost in it. For the first boss, all you have to worry about are the 3 yellow markings I have. The X in the middle is where the boss spawns. It's a dragon, it doesn't have too big of an aggro range, so you can stand a little bit away and you won't aggro it. The important thing to know are the 2 yellow circles. These are the locations of 2 Sarkanas that will spawn as you kill the boss. The importance of these Sarkanas is that they give it a reflect, and you can't attack the boss with a reflect because you'll kill yourself, so all the ranged DPS classes need to go on the Sarkanas. I say ranged because they actually spawn above the ground. I'm going to say 10 meters or so, just out of range for a physical melee class. So if you are a sorcerer or a sin, in our case, you would have your bow or you'd just be nuking them. Gladiator can actually use a bow too. I will start the clip in a second, but I'm going to mention also as well, make sure your alliance is ready. Click the readiness check, because even if everyone's on vent, you never know. Somebody might be alt-tabbed and not paying attention. They might DC, etc. Also, this boss is fire damage 100% through because he's a dragon, and dragons like fire. So I will recommend using Summer Circle and using a fireproof scroll. Okay, so when you start on the boss, generally you want to spread out a bit. You don't want to stand in a giant clump because he does AoEs. I'll also mention before he starts doing his skills that I put the transparent map so you can get a point of reference. But generally, everyone stands around it. Clerics can stand back a bit. It's probably safer that way for them. And the tank is just going to pretty much tank it until he starts using his skills. This boss is not too bad. Okay, let's see. He did Hallucination Victory. That is his reflex skill. I can play it again in slow motion so you can see, but Hallucination Victory, that's what you look out for. That's when you run over to the Sarkana. I'm going to the left one with my team. I'm just going to stand here. If you're a healer, make sure you keep your DPS healed because it'll do about half their HP, the nuke. And as you can see, the Sarkana doesn't take too much effort to kill. So once that's dead, he'll just simply go back and continue DPSing the boss. The next thing I'm going to mention is that he'll also do an AoE off someone. It's called Blaze Circle, or, well, we'll see when it happens. But that's another thing to look out for, at any rate, while we're DPSing. Blaze Engraving, okay, I was close. And when it goes on you, you basically want to run away because there's a big circle of fire that's a really obvious indicator that you should not stand in it. And as you can see, it's pretty much the same. Oh, there's Circana. You get a message as well. Kalendi has absorbed the Circana's magic to become even stronger. In addition, he'll also start putting fire on the ground. It's called Shadow Flame. And that also burns, but if you got magic resist, you can resist them. And our Templar almost died there too as well. It's important to run around in circles while the DPS is pretty much just killing the Circana, because you can't really do anything to the boss. And look, it even killed our Sin, because, well, Reflex hurt. At any rate, that's pretty much the boss. Stay out of the circle of fire. When the Circana spawn, kill them, ranged. And try not to stand in the flames. Even if you've got magic resist, it's better safe than sorry. Oh, and also res your dead. Other than that, as you can see, you get a nice little debuff on you from Blaze Engraving, from the Circle of Fire. That's no fun. And you don't have to worry about any cooldowns as well. As you can tell, like, it's pretty obvious, but no one's used any cooldowns, big ones, just normal skills. Because this boss you want to save everything for, so you just go along your merry way. And look, the Templar even popped Empyrean Providence. It's a really nice buff. Blocks, I believe, for 15 seconds every attack you get hit by. Yeah, look, I even previewed it for a split second. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Just kill the Circana again. Typically you'll get to like 3 to 4 to 5, one of those numbers, Circana spawns, because DPS shouldn't be too bad. Okay, so the boss is finally almost dead. At this point, he pops a buff. It's basically the equivalent of WoW and I believe Berserking. It makes the boss hit much faster. You can akin it to, let's say, the horse boss in Lanix, I guess. Not as bad though, but it definitely starts hurting you much more. So at this point you want to kill it like we did. And then you're going to get a nice little cinematic that's like live cinematic, I guess, where Tiamat shows her fury and you get frozen into a statue. And as a chanter, make sure that you go in the middle and buff Marchutan because HP buffs help. And I did it here when we get freed from the rocks of pain. Or Kaizenol if you're an Elias. I mean, it doesn't really make a difference. I think ours looks cooler though. Just throwing that out there. Okay, before I start again, I'm going to show that our team makeup was changed a bit. We arranged it again. We had both the Sins, 2 Clerics, Templar, and me as a Chanter go left. And we had the Sorks, the other Templar, Glad, and Cleric and Chanter go right. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. You're going to see a portal in a second. Do not use it right away, because you're going to want to wait and kill a mob that spawns immediately after. The portal does take like a couple seconds though. You're just going to sit there and wait. This is also timed, by the way, so make sure you do DPS. Don't blow long cooldowns, but at any rate, see the Spiritualist that spawns? Yes, you will want to kill this because it actually gives back Marchutan some HP. It buys you more time when you're killing the Incarnate. Empyrean Lord has absorbed, etc. Then after you've killed the Spiritualist, you'll go inside. As you can see, Marchutan's just beating on Tiamat with his giant staff. Lord of Chanters and Clerics. Or was it just Chanters? Anyway, Fissure Fang. This is the Earth boss, so as you can see, he's pretty much just does collapsing Earth. And you can resist this, of course, but Earth Scroll really helps, as I said. Also, Perfect Parry is a Chanter. Like, time that before Incarnate Surge, because that will help nerf the damage. I missed, of course. This one does hurt a lot more. Like, as you can tell, I'm having to heal, even though we already have 2 Clerics. Because there's a lot of AoEs that come with the Earth boss, and as you can see, it's pretty much like the one that comes in the Fortress. Ooh, and Bite. And he's just constantly spamming those AoEs. As you can see, I'm resisting a lot of them, but it's just spam, spam, spam. And there's a big one as well. At any rate, once this boss is pretty much dead, you can zone out again. Speed is key. Look at Marchutan. He's about below 75, but We're going to kill another spiritualist, so we'll see what happens. Yeah, it's a pretty cool looking fight between the two, basically gods of this game. I don't know if there's a better term, but as you can see, the HP goes up again when you kill these two, so that's really important. And then we're going to zone into the next area. So we have gravity here. And gravity is pretty much as gravity is. And he does a lot of tornadoes and that paralyze you. They're the most annoying things. But additionally, there's also like Aether's Hold he can do. The only really annoying thing is that these tornadoes will start multiplying and just paralyzing everyone. It's just the worst thing ever. Up there's aerial hold. I don't have my second remove shock because I realize now that I swapped the second remove shock for Curtain of Aether, so I was like, whoops. And I put that on my hotbar. I mean, this also hurts and you can't slack on healing, but I think he's more manageable than his the Earth one above it. For the Wrath Incarnate, he uses a skill called Sphere of Wrath. Now this will decrease your HP by a pretty significant amount, but it will also increase your attack speed, physical attack, and cast speed for 3 seconds, using the other debuff that comes with it, called Insight Rage. This can actually be dangerous because Incarnate Surge can hit you for the amount of HP you get reduced to, so just be careful of that. The Petrification boss spawns Petrification Crystals, which, as you guessed, petrify you. So this will paralyze you for a short amount of time. Another important thing is to make sure that Marchutan is not close to death when you kill the last Incarnates, because you need about, I'd say, 10 seconds before he does his special stuff, which I will so nicely show now. So Marchutan's basically going to say, I've had enough of your games, I'm going to hit you with this weird circle Triforce thing, and just, yeah. And then Tiamat just goes, oh no, I'm crippled. But of course Marchutan's also crippled, so at this point he's just going to stand there and watch. So next comes Tiamat. You can actually take a pause here if you need to before you start, but there's a 30-minute timer from when Tiamat has become weakened to when she despawns, so you have to keep that in mind. You even get a message, so. Okay, I'm going to do a quick freeze frame here, but as you can see, the healers and pretty much the other range classes, the sorcerers, are all standing in one clump right at this position on the map. You can see it as well. And the reason for this is that you don't get hit by his AoEs at all if you stand right here. It's really nice. We'll go ahead and get started. Oh, one more thing. Use Summer Circle again, and Fire and Earth Scrolls. Earth you will see later, but Fire is a dragon. Fire. Just two synonymous things. Okay, if you're a physical class and you have to go close to DPS, make sure you stand not exactly 0 meters from the boss, stand like 2 meters, so that your healers can also heal you without having to move forward. So pretty much the first 50% of the boss, he's going to be doing Ultimate Atrocity, and it's basically just him shooting fire in one direction that you don't want to stand next to. You don't want to use any cooldowns, you want to save those. I mean, he used Berserking here, but that's okay, it'll be back up by the time we have to get to the more important stuff. We actually also have, as you notice, the Templars, the Gladiators tanking, because we're going to need to use the Templars later on for the ad. As you can see here though, the Ultimate Atrocity just misses us, even though it's like literally right next to us. It hits the DPS, but you can heal that no problem. I'm cutting a little ahead. This is where you see the first use of Tiamat's little spike that spawned from the ground. These should do earth damage, but you can avoid them also by standing where we are, so it's just another thing to look out for. And the boss still isn't 51%. It does nothing special until 51. So actually what we do is when it gets to 51%, we actually wait and do not DPS, and we wait and we watch. And when it does another one of those earth skills, then we pop. Wow, I'll actually cut to it here. Let me find the clip. Okay, so we got to 51 about, and we're just waiting. And then suddenly, from nowhere, come the rock spikes. This is when the channers pop wow, both of the channers. And this is when we have a timer start for the ads. Okay, so after you've popped wow, there's an 80-second window from which the first set of ads will spawn. In that meantime, it's okay to just continually DPS. Don't use any cooldowns yet. The only cooldown pop so far was wow. I also swapped to my elemental defense mantra, protection mantra, I believe. No, it's called, it is called protection mantra. When it gets close to the 80-second mark, though, from when you initially started the DPS below 50%, that is when the ads will spawn. So actually the two Templars run off. I'm going to be sticking with one of them mostly. And they spawn in, like, he's standing on the right side, the other one's standing towards the middle, but you'll hear the dings, and they spawn, they're pretty easy to see. They're called Divisive Creation. Very interesting name. And this is the reason you'd want to use an Earth Scroll. They do Earth, and they can do the nuke called Summon Rock. And then the boss, of course, does Fire. At any rate, our Templars are pretty much going to be running around and kiting them. As you can see, my Templar is resisting some of the stuff, but he's still getting hit pretty decently. Also, it's important to protect, or at least for a Chanter, pop Word of Protection so that they get more elemental defense. As for the DPS, all they're doing is just continually weaving in skills, etc., getting the boss down lower and lower. It's very hard for me as a Chanter to continue to look at the boss and go back to my Templar and help heal, but generally you want to be very smart about your cooldowns on the Templar. Like, don't pop Iron Skin, don't pop Nezukin's or the Elios version, the 4K shield. Don't pop that until the very end. You just want to make sure you save your cooldowns, etc. Another thing now, okay, the next thing I'm going to point out is that you want to stop when the boss gets to 26% HP. We stopped, and we waited for this third set of ads to spawn. The reason for this is because we want them to spawn before he does like his special nukes. As you can see there, I just popped Quickness. Because when it hit 25%, that is when we really did our burst. So both Channers would pop Quickness at 25%. And at this point, the ads are multiplying pretty nicely. The other cleric is also helping me out because he's more or less free. But these ads, they really do hurt, so you have to continually kite. Our Templars are just running around. Another thing I'm going to mention is that you have to make sure you are not spending too much time standing next to the ads because they AoE off themselves. And if you're next to them, you have a chance to get hit by the AoEs. The next skill we're going to watch out for is going to be the boss's 3-second unremovable stun. Okay, so this part's going to be really hard to explain, but I will do my best. There comes a critical point. He's about 15% HP here. It's hard to tell, I know. Okay, I'm going to pause it again here. As you can see, the clerics just popped Brilliant Protection, and this is across the board. The reason for this is because this is what you have to look out for. This is what your every cooldown is DP, etc. is needed. I actually popped Tremor here because I wanted to help shield myself. But regardless, as you can see, I resisted a bunch of stuff. I also took 0 damage and multiple weaves were blocked. But he does a 3-second stun here called Infinite Pain, and you can't remove shock this, and it's really important that you pop Brilliance and Acquittal at the same time for this particular skill. This is like the one skill you need to be ready for. My Templar actually had Empyrean Providence running, so he blocked a bunch, and then he popped his 2k heal. And it's nice, the only one that deep died was Zolan, one of our DPS, through that. But that's a really key point. Like, I'm going to repeat it again. Brilliant Protection, Acquittal, stack on each other. Templars, make sure you're nearby the clerics to get hit by those. And other than that, make the stun is going to be 3 seconds, so it's really important to live through that as a Templar and Cleric. Those two classes cannot die. Anyway, we'll go ahead and continue. As you can see now, the Templar on my team has popped 4k. This is really good. He popped 4k in Aether Armor to help him block damage for 30 seconds. Tiamat is almost dead, so at this point we're just bursting really hard and buying as much time as we can. But once you live through that, like, the only important thing I'm going to say is that you make sure that you stay alive, because you might think that you're okay in the clear, but we've actually wiped before to in the last, like, 3% because the ads just got out of control. Again, watch me staying away from them. You don't want to stand next to them. I popped Curtain of Aether as well there because the Templar's 4k ran out. It was eaten really quickly, but the boss is about to die, so there you have it. Oh yeah, before I forget, now you get to see what I get, or don't get. At any rate, that hopefully will help.